it got in my head. I mean, I have to say, I completely lost it. I was not playing squash from third game on. I mean, it was just he was fist bumping like crazy, and it was getting in my head.
Yeah.
I completely lost it. I mean, he had the upper hand mentally, technically, tactically, everything that day. It was not my day.
Welcome to the Iron Mind podcast. What separates the elite from the merely good? Follow me as I explore the makeup of elite athletes. What helps them come through when the pressure is greatest and the stakes the highest? Hi, my name is Corey. Today's guest is Aria Fazelimanesh, owner and executive director of LA Squash Academy. Aria's journey took him from being the first Iranian junior to medal internationally to becoming a U.S. junior national champion. He played college squash at the University of Rochester, where his team reached the finals of the Division I College National Championships. He now coaches the next generation of top junior players in LA. In this conversation, we dive into the challenges he faced, from visa barriers to culture shock, and how those moments shaped his mindset. We'll also hear how he now helps young athletes develop their own mental toughness. Enjoy. Hi, Aria. Welcome to the Iron Mind podcast. I'm used to seeing you at the courts in LA, but it's great to connect with you virtually. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Corey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
All right, so to start things off, could you first tell us how you got started with squash, what it meant to you growing up playing in Iran, and then moving to the US?
Well, just like 99% of all squash players, I started because my dad was playing. The background that I come from, I was born and raised in Tehran, Iran. Very small squash community, especially when I started. I started when I was 7, watching my dad play, and there was like 2 courts at the time. By the time I was leaving the country in 2010, there was 8 courts in the same building. But to put it into perspective, squash started when I was born in Iran in 1994. But yeah, played there until I was 15, 16, and then got lucky with a green card and uh, came here.
All right, I saw that when you did move to the US, you were the first Iranian to ever win an international junior medal.
Uh-huh.
What do you remember most about that tournament and what it took to get there? And mentally, what was going through your mind?
So something that I have to put everything into perspective for everybody watching, especially maybe junior squash players in the US, that they don't realize. I mean, you just have your passport on your hand and you can cross borders just like that. You just go to, I don't know, Austria, slap the passport there, and they're like, okay, welcome. So, one of the biggest challenges that you have as an Iranian athlete is you can train for months and months, and then you have to apply for a visa. And then there's a chance you're not going to get the visa. And so, I would say that was one of the things that makes you tougher. So like there was a point where, like I say, Vienna trained for this tournament, Austrian junior for like 6 months, and then like last minute the visa didn't come through. But anyways, besides that, I was one of the very first players to compete in Scottish and British Junior Open for Iran, fully self-funded, self-trained, everything. I was one of the only juniors who really played squash, really small junior community.
Yeah.
And 2008, we traveled to the Scottish and British. At the Scottish, I finished third. This was massive in terms of how small of a background I was coming from. I was the very first junior to really travel, not only travel, but also finish third place. I mean, Scottish Junior is not that big of a tournament, but just
Still a big
getting
deal.
there, yeah, just getting there, playing the tournament, and finishing top 3 was massive. And so I ended up getting a lot of attention from media. I was all over the news, this
Wow.
and that. So as a 13-year-old, I mean, it was really eye-opening, huge confidence boost. Just really made me believe in the process of becoming what it takes to become a really good elite player to be able to compete at that level.
Yeah. I know you were mentioning earlier about how you weren't able to train all the time and because you'd have to get your visa. How do you think that affected you mentally? and where you'd probably have so much pressure or expectation for yourself to, really perform, especially given you're one of the first few Iranians to compete internationally.
Well, I think everybody, all human beings, like eventually they adapt. Um, there's a reason that Trinity teams like Trinity College or like Rochester as well, you got all these kids from everywhere coming from a little bit of a tougher background, and
Yeah,
you put them on court and they're just a lot tougher. I mean, maybe their squash is nothing like special, but like
mentally.
that's what gives them the heart of a champion. And
Yeah,
so I think this just challenges in your personal life has a lot of effect in on court as well. I mean, look at the Egyptians. I mean, they play squash like they're playing soccer on the street. Like they'll try to win with whatever it takes. Doesn't matter. It looks like a street fight. But I think that's why, and I've talked about it before too, to my players and everybody in our community, kind of have to find something that traumatizes you in your personal life and use it,
as motivation.
yeah,
Yeah,
to feel you really on court. And I was, I guess, lucky to come from Iran and be able to compete on the squash court.
yeah. So then after you moved to the US, so after your junior career in Iran, when you moved to the US, when you won the national titles and then playing college squash at such a high level, it probably must have required a lot of discipline and focus. Was there a moment during that journey when you felt your mental toughness really mattered?
Yeah, yes. So after I moved from Iran, I mean, yes, I was coming from a really small squash community. I was part of the national team from when I was 10 years old, traveled around the world, came to the US. Sure, I was playing squash, but I didn't. Well, I have to shout out to my coaches in Iran. I had amazing mentors, that's for sure. No doubt about that. What they taught me more than squash was habits, like the
For sure.
daily boring habits that requires what it takes to become a really good squash player. That's what I brought with me. And when I was in the US, I moved to the Bay Area at the time, really small squash community as well. But just because we wanted to be in California, bigger Iranian community, I came with that work ethic. I got to the US number one within the year in under 17s.
Dang.
I barely spoke the language. I didn't speak any English. I mean, like a lot of my friends, a lot of the guys in junior squash, they still remember me. Now they see me coaching in LA, and I see them after years. They're like, "Last time I saw you, you couldn't even hold a conversation." Uh, anyways, and I came when I was a junior in high school. I mean, I had to take SATs and everything. But anyways, um, from there, yes. So it worked out for me that way, but still I had the challenge of school. I moved to Baltimore, lucky to play at a friend's school. I played on the squash team. They helped me get my grades up, learn English. But the most challenging, I mean, the most mentally challenging things for me at the time was just, yes, figuring out how to fit in within this culture as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, but at the same time perform on court, at the same time try to catch up and get recruited to college. But when you're a kid, you got nothing to lose, really. I mean, you got so much time, and you just stay in the moment and stick with it. And again, coming from Iran, seeing how much my parents are working for me to succeed, you become responsible. These are the little things that really matter that I wish I could see more and more in the current generation of squash players
Yeah.
that we coach. But yeah, so again, personal life, easy to translate it to your life as an athlete, and it helps you immensely.
Was playing college squash or playing squash in the US always something you wanted to do?
Um, yes and no. I didn't know that I was gonna move to the US at that age. I got lucky getting a green card. I had no idea about college squash actually. I remember seeing a promotional video of Martin Heath the Rochester team used to have this promotional video every year, and looking at it on YouTube in Iran, and like I was
It's,
showing my dad, like, hey, like I can become a doctor and go play squash. Look at this. Like, look how beautiful this campus is. And so funny that like Rochester, I ended up at Rochester, and that was one of the only videos that I've had seen about college squash on YouTube. But
it's
no,
destiny.
yeah, I never played. I had to go to college to play on the college team. I just didn't know that was a possibility. I think like the world of squash out there back then, at least. When I say back then, this is 10 to 15 years ago. Uh, was kind of like in Europe, Middle East, didn't know as much about college squash and wasn't as much of a thing compared to now. So people just played and they wanted to play pro if they were a really good player, and they just loved it. And so again, it's all luck, I think, and meeting the right people at the right time.
Yeah, for sure. And when I saw online that Rochester reached the national championship finals. I think it was during your junior year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So, what was preparing for that like, and what do you remember about your mindset or preparation during that time?
That was definitely a season to remember. And a
Huge
lot of
deal. It's a
people,
huge deal.
yeah, a lot of people know me for that match that I played against Max. But that was a great season. But what maybe people didn't see was the 2 3 years leading up to that. We happened to be all this. I would say it was a very group driven move from the team from our freshman year. I was lucky to get recruited alongside of great players like Ryosei Kobayashi and Mario Yanez, Tomotaka Endo, Neil Cordell. These guys all played pro and they were top 70 within a year of playing college squash. And then, so coming to that team from junior squash was a massive change for me. I always thought that I was the shit. Sorry for my language.
No problem.
Played. I was always number one in whatever division I played, and I thought it was just like that. And so I went on that team, and like I got 8 of me playing alongside me.
Yeah.
4 of them are 3 times better than me.
Yeah.
And so it was. See, when I look back at college at the time, it felt like a massive failure in the present for me because I was struggling doing passing chemistry courses and that.
Yeah.
And my advisor looking at me like, "What are you doing with yourself?" And then at the same time, just challenging for like numbers 5 to 7. And it was. I thought I would just go to college and be like, okay, I'll keep training and maybe I'll play number one on my team. No, I mean we're up against high level pros.
Yeah.
But that year, it was the whole group coming together and just quit all the bad habits that the college squash player can have, down to like your meal and fitness time and everything. So it was a group driven thing. And again, the culture that was built around our team at the time was very unique. This is, you're talking about again, kids who are coming from different backgrounds
Rough
versus,
backgrounds too,
yeah,
sometimes.
some
Yeah.
rougher backgrounds, but the team just had such an amazing chemistry, really. One of our players was out with a snapped Achilles the year before, Lawrence Kuhn. I never forget
Oh
that.
gosh.
And he was on his way back to recovery. And he did make it, and he made the college nationals finals with the team. Crazy. So we were together, we were in it together. And what mattered was really for us, just winning the title was never the thing. It was more like how we win mattered. I really appreciate that from Martin for setting that culture, passing it down to all the guys. And so we loved just playing alongside each other, even though it was challenging. In terms of mindset, I can't pinpoint to anything specific, but it took everything. I think playing the finals was the most nerve-wracking thing ever. Some people handled the pressure better than others, for sure. I mean, we had Tomo playing with the flu the entire weekend. I never forget this. I remember we played against Trinity 2-all, 10-all in the fifth, and they played, I think, to like 16, 14, something like that.
Insane.
Like the entire thing is like shaking, and he was playing with the flu. As soon as he won his match, he couldn't even stand. He was shaking so hard because he was such a high fever. He just went in the locker room, put his jacket on, and like went home because he could barely walk. But anyways, he played the final, played an amazing match the next day. Unfortunately, we couldn't take the title.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier your match with Max. Could you tell me a little bit more about that and what that was like?
Yeah, maybe this is the first time I'm speaking on that match publicly. I think both of us definitely a little bit more of a, maybe Max a little bit more than me, more on the animated side of the game. But hey, it's sports; it doesn't matter. That day, I remember I had played Max a few times in juniors, and so I had beaten him both times, but it didn't matter. I mean, this is like junior of college squash,
Yeah.
much different times. That's the only that's the only thing I was familiar with. And also we were playing at Yale, um, which at the time, when you look at it, it's was fair at the time, but because we just didn't have any neutral venue. But that year we played at Yale. Makes a huge difference. Atmosphere was crazy. Barely slept the night before.
Come.
Was super nervous. I mean, really nervous. I That weekend I also didn't perform. I performed okay. I won against Penn, lost against Trinity, not the best match, which was the semifinal, even though we won the. So I was going in doubting myself a lot. Won the first game, lots of blocking, lots of talking with the refs, fans going crazy. I mean, it got in my head. I mean, I have to say, I completely lost it. I was not playing squash from third game on. I mean, it was just he was fist bumping like crazy, and it was getting my head.
Yeah.
I completely lost it. I mean, he had the upper hand mentally, technically, tactically, everything that day. It was not my day, and I remember playing very poorly and lost the match in four, and that could have been one of the matches that would have won us the national title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still painful to think back, but
Yeah. For
we got
sure. Can't imagine.
and I want to say maybe next time, but no, there's no next time.
No, next time. Well, when you were at your time at Rochester, did you ever work with a sports psychologist or kind of a mental coach at all?
Specifically, mental coaches, no, I never did, but I had a great mentor, Mohammed, who coaches at Lifetime Fitness now with his brother Ali. They run the Lifetime Fitness program down in Atlanta, and they're doing an amazing job. He was I would say, one of the best mental coaches I've ever had, and taught me certain techniques of how to think about what to think about when I'm competing, necessarily mainly more before the match rather than what I have to do during the match. And I think that's a lot of it is by just experience a lot of times. But yeah.
Could you share with us some of the things
Sure.
you learned?
Yeah, so I still remember this to this day. Before I played this Scottish Junior, finally had the visa ready to go 2 nights before, and he gave me this pep talk that I'll never forget. And it was more like, I don't think there's anybody that has worked as hard as you leading up to this tournament. And it was true. For example, we had like snow days before that tournament, and I couldn't get to the club a few days. And I was so upset. My parents couldn't take me. I literally put my shoes on, and we had a long hallway. We didn't live in a house because there's not really houses in Tehran. We had a long hallway, and I just put my shoes on and did court sprints so that I keep my body in shape because I just was so hungry for that. So one was that, and he saw that. That's why he said that. And we got together. He told me to make the draw of the tournament, literally like put the names in your hand and like shuffle them and like pick the names and pick the seats, put your
Simulated.
name in there,
Yeah.
pick the draw, and like play it in your head. Like close your eyes, play the match, starting from when you get to the club, doing your routine, doing your warm up on court, spin the racket, like all that down to detail. Play every match in your head. And I think what that did for me, especially that tournament, I literally, like, when I was playing, I had flashback that I felt like I had been there already. By the time I was starting my matches, I felt like I had been there. So that was massive. And it's easier to say and explain this drill than actually doing it. It's so hard to like put faces together and like,
Yeah. And it can be sometimes a little boring too.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I'm a massive fan of repetitive, boring
I know
things
that.
if you want to become a top elite junior squash player. I think simple, boring things that you do consistently, it will win always. It will win over talent. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that technique was something that I loved and I carried to this day for myself, even if I have to go to a meeting that I'm nervous about, or like something doesn't go right at the academy and like I have to perform, or like anything. So that was massively helpful, I would say. Other techniques, other things that I've learned. One thing that I never forget from college squash, this is not from junior squash, and being in the room playing against the crowd and like things going against you, matches that I think about, like matches like Tomo played, one of our teammates. I mean, Tomo Taka Endo, he was our number 4 and he literally came through at number 4 every time for us. He would play, we always wanted him to play with number 4 as well, because he would be the last person rescuing the entire team.
Yeah.
He would win matches, super clutch. And just like looking at this guy and be like, how are you holding your nerves together? And being in the same room with him or any of the guys there, it's just so life changing, I would say. Or myself being in that room, playing that match in the nationals finals, which feels like the most nerve wracking thing ever. I would say anything that I experienced today can't,
Can't amount to it.
yeah, it wouldn't, it doesn't live up to that. I mean, it's just, I'm a big fan of getting there, like experiencing that thing before you get, or like finding something that's very familiar to that feeling and putting yourself in that situation as much as you can.
Yeah. So kind of visualizing that,
Sure.
visualizing everything, and then so by the time you're there, you already feel completely prepared and everything just goes to plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, transitioning from college squash to how you're the head coach at the LA Squash Academy now, how do you help your juniors build focus and confidence when matches get close?
Like I say, I think I'll go back to what I'm saying. I like to have a more holistic approach to everything and just putting uh, our players. First of all, a junior squash player has very limited amount of time to practice. I mean, you're realistically not playing as a pro. You have everybody goes to really good top schools trying to score high so they can go to these Ivy leagues. Very limited time compared to the pro player who has 3-4 hours a day. You got maybe max 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
12 to 15 hours a week max. I would say simple, small practices, um, like not just for mental toughness, but everything. Like if your straight drive is not straight, we're not going to be able to have time to do an hour of straight drive every time you come to make that perfect and then lose so much more on the other things that are helping you win the match, you
Yeah.
know? So 10 minutes, 20 minutes in your warm up, in your cool down, whatever it is, every day, 6 days a week. I mean, it adds up and pushes your game 10%, 20%. Let's say if you can improve 10% a month, that's massive. 20% a month, it's massive. Same as mental toughness. I'm a massive, big fan of practice matches. A lot of times, I mean, we live in LA. That's what I love about LA Squash Academy right now, or my passion playing squash in LA is like I feel connected to it because I came from a background where squash was very small and like it wasn't played the traditional way like you guys do it on the East Coast. I would say maybe for you, for example, for you, Corey. I mean, I imagine you have on your team so many people close to your level where you can get out there, practice, hang out. But here we have to be creative. We match up sometimes our 15-year-old with a 25-year-old. college graduate. I mean, or
Yeah.
12-year-old with an adult, 45-year-old adult, a 12-year-old who is like top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
Nobody can beat him. And like some of the people have graduated already. So, and like being there and coaching them through that match, making, let's say, a challenge match, which is not, it's still important, matters somewhat, but it's not like a JCT, you know,
Yeah.
and just doing that over and over and over. And instead of spending so much time during the season, especially that we are very limited with time, I think I love that approach. And I think that's the way to improve as an overall player the fastest. I think speed matters in junior squash so much for
Yeah.
getting to college.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Could you share a story of a player you've coached who showed mental toughness?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, anybody who has played in LA has played Naum Lekovic.
Oh yeah.
Naum is one of the toughest, not one of the toughest kids I've coached, but just one of the toughest people I've seen on squash court, especially in the States, playing junior squash. He started when he was 13.
Very late. Very late.
Tall, strong, Serbian background, a lot of willpower, not the best technique, not the best movement at the time, just insanely tough. I mean, he also happened to play squash, like start squash 6 months before COVID happened. I mean, we had shutdowns here in LA more than anywhere, I would say, in the country. We were playing in the parks. I mean, he was learning, literally, he was learning backhand technique on in the park, on in like outdoor handball courts. Like seriously, that's how he learned his like backhand technique, like his junior backhand technique.
Yeah.
Um, and then he would go, and I remember we had these rating tournaments. I don't know if you remember. It was just
Yeah,
rating,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember.
and there's so much pride in like a 13, 14-year-old boy everywhere. They won't just go. I would be like, now you need to play Dora. Dora is a 10-year-old girl chopping up on Naum at the time, absolutely chopping him. He didn't care. I mean, he did not care. He just wanted to get better.
Yeah.
And he would put aside all of that crap and just, he would be like, okay, tell me what to do. I mean, it's so hard to find the player that just goes, okay, I'm here. I got you 3 hours a day. Tell me where to go. That's every coach's dream. And a lot of it is mental toughness. I mean, just putting your pride aside and doing that
Putting in
is
the
tough.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. So after Dora was a 12-year-old, I don't know, Kelvin. After that was, I'm just making up names, but it was like 14-year-old, or like after that was Matthew Tomlin. After that, looking for to be Reza, and then after that is Milo. After that is Corey, or it's like it's just like he had a hit list, you know. He had a hit list of people every day showing up, just thinking, oh, how to beat these players.
Yeah.
And he's tough. I mean, he will do whatever it takes to win. He played an Egyptian kid who was rated way higher than him at the time, number one seed, and just stayed steady on that backhand side, figured him out, came back from 2-0 down, won that match. I couldn't believe it. I mean, this was 2 years after he had played squash, and this kid was
Yeah.
playing number one in one of the high schools on the East Coast, and just speaks to like his everything, like mental toughness, commitment. And we never really talked about mental toughness techniques or like any sort of technique or practices to stay composed, but like he played a lot. He had a massive volume of match practices, and he still does. I mean, like to this day, I think his biggest issue is his technique, and that's because he started so late. But did he win matches and got recruited to play at Middlebury? Yes, he did. He got the job done.
Yeah. I remember. I remember when Nam started out. Um was there, I don't know if you can share this, but was there ever a moment where he felt like he was really struggling in terms of making that leap, or couldn't beat a certain someone, and so he came to you and he just really wanted to, he just asked you to try to fix something, or he wasn't sure what to do? Was there ever a moment kind of like that?
Yeah, plenty moments. I mean, so many. And what I'll tell you, like for example, he played US Open, played a Canadian kid who was ranked pretty highly. He beat him 3-0, played amazing in that tournament, came back, and he was working on his backhand technique, and that tournament he played amazing. Came back, got thrown off, and like he couldn't stop talking about that for months. Like how he played amazing there, but now it's not working anymore, and he has to perform better in the next tournaments because he's getting closer to college recruiting season. But what he didn't do was getting distracted. A lot of players just get distracted, like especially with all the social media, everything out there, people share and like this person, their success or whatever it is, like how much easier it is to do this back-end technique, and maybe your coach isn't saying this right, your parents are like buying you this course and then doing that. And don't get me wrong, I highly recommend every player to go and study coaches, players around the world, and that's the way you learn really the fastest. But he had to stay focused for 3 to 4 more months and just maintain and get better, like we say, 10% better. And he did. He didn't give up. He was very upset for sure. He was very upset. He was very in his head. He would go to some tournaments, get thrown off, and lose, but he didn't give up.
All right, well, this question, we're going to rewind a bit back to yourself. If you were to go back and talk to, let's just say, 17-year-old you, what kind of advice would you give him, whether that be mindset or, discipline, etc.?
Yeah. I always wonder that question myself. Like, if I had to coach myself, what would I do? I would say, and I recommend this to everybody coming up, is just observing and watching. And I love the word that there's a psychologist named Dr. K on the internet. He's massive. He talks about theory crafting. He's like a gamer, and I'm not a gamer, but he talks about theory crafting, where it's like if you're learning something new and something doesn't feel familiar to you, you don't necessarily have to go and put yourself in like the toughest situation to execute that. You can start by just watching, like go and learn, maybe take a lesson, go think about it, try it on your own. Speak to people who do speak the same language and talk about the same things. Go try it again. Um, do the practice, play the match, execute it during the match, not against somebody way better than you, somebody maybe a little uh, worse than you.
Yeah.
That actually matters a lot. I think that something that I should have done was condition myself under pressure and not under the pressure. And like I say, playing high volumes of games with that mindset can be massive. Like if you're working on your backhand, let's say you were saying to me you were working on your backhand.
Yeah.
Like let's say take that backhand technique and like play somebody. If you're rated, let's say 6.5, play somebody 5.5. Condition yourself. Only play backhands, or only play straight on the backhand. A little bit up, do the solos, play somebody at your level and up like that, and go back and forth. Really, I would do a lot more of that rather than do ghosting. I mean, I was killing myself ghosting for hours just because I didn't know anything else.
Yeah.
And like, uh, came here and dollar was so much, the value of dollar was so much higher than our money at the time, and Iran was going through sanctions from America. So like my dad was like, I can't get you lessons every day. That's just not possible. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what? Like I was ghosting all the time, or like doing court sprints, or like biking. But anyways, I would do a lot more of that. That just alone, just playing and seeing other people, observing other people next to you doing what you want to do, the way you think you want to do it, is the fastest way to get good at this game.
Yeah. I know, like what you were saying just now about the court sprints and the ghosting, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about doing the boring, repetitive stuff. And that's what really propels you to becoming really good, a great squash player. But for you personally, when you're doing these, let's say, just mundane kind of fitness or these really hard things, but very necessary, what's going through your mind then? And how do you kind of develop that hunger, I guess?
I think a lot of it is, Corey, it's a lot of personal habits that you build, and personal habits will get built through, I think, a reward system, and the reward system will come a lot slower than I think people think. Not everybody will be everybody pointing fingers at you. This squash lesson, that squash lesson, good job. You're getting better and better and better, and you had the talent. We were talking about becoming better every day beyond your ability. And I think it just takes pushing yourself in the moment to do smaller things for a small amount of time as a start, and then increasing them. Once that sort of like, when you add them up, there's no way. I mean, if you do something so much, it's physically impossible to fail. Like, you have to do it so much, or you have to think about it this way. I think if you do the straight forehand drop shot 100 times every day for 6 months, in no possible world you'll be bad at the forehand straight drop shot.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. Instead of thinking about, oh, I'm not good at that, like, or I was never good at forehand drop shot. You're never good because, I don't know, you just never try to do it. And so it only also takes like a couple times for this to happen, for this cycle to go through. Like we were talking about theory crafting or whatever. It's like you do it and you get rewarded and you want to do more of it. It becomes an addiction. Like, I don't understand why. One thing I don't understand is like how professional squash players do it for 10 years. I mean, Shorbagi's been on the pro circuit since he was 16, 15, and he's 30, what, like 4 or 5 right now?
I don't know, but yeah, late 30s.
I mean, can you imagine that? And also they're traveling, and also they're playing at that level back to back, 90 plus minute matches. And they're doing it because they were rewarded early on, and from certain moments, smaller moments that pushed them and boosted these sort of lifestyle. It becomes a lifestyle. Like, you warming up for 10-15 minutes is going to be a non-negotiable for you. I shouldn't say 10-15 minutes. That's a low standard. Or like 20-30 minutes with your formula, this. That really becomes a standard, and you start setting higher standards for yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to hold yourself to that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So before we wrap up, I have a tradition on this podcast where the previous guest leaves a question for whoever comes on next. My previous guest asked, what was a point in life where you faced a mental challenge that threatened your squash career or made you question whether you wanted to continue down this path or not?
Would it be about my squash coaching career?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think I have a good one for that one, because I first moved to LA and my role became from a squash player and squash coach to more of an entrepreneur. And I was just used to going into these squash environments where everybody was excited to play squash, and that was my expectation. And it was completely wrong. I wasn't in the business of coaching. I was in the business of running a squash business and promoting the game. And I already wanted to work with the best players in the country and become a name and do that and coach like an elite level of players. Anyways, after a year of coaching, I decided to either quit coaching and quit squash overall, or change my location and go to a more squash friendly environment. So I called up my old coach, Jonathan Perry, up in Bay Area, and he was looking for a head pro position. And I had a really good number of kids down in LA here too, who loved me, respected me, their parents relied on me. But I had to make that decision, and it came out of nowhere. I was like, and if I left, I had lost my current job in that moment at UCLA, where I had a position, I had access to courts, and I also was working at the time called Aria Fazelimanesh. I was also working part-time there. I made the decision to just go to Bay Area and coach. And when I got there after 2 weeks, it didn't feel right. Very selfish of me. It didn't feel right. From the bottom of my heart, I thought I was not meant to be there and I was meant to be in LA. And everybody was so nice and kind to me to just even give me that opportunity to go coach in the Bay Area and just be able to leave like that. I came back, knew that I would lose everything and I had to start everything over, basically. Surely enough, I didn't really have the same credibility. They had hired new coaches to replace me.
Yeah.
And so I had to face the challenge where is this worth continuing or not? And I think I stuck with my gut at the time and just put a lot of work behind it and build this academy. Mentally, I really was hungry to build something. And that's what drew me back to LA. Yeah. So I think that was the toughest moment in my coaching squash career. And when I look back from what we have today, it's amazing. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like we had all of us. I mean, all the coaches. We had very handful of players, two coaches, two, three coaches. Right now, it's over 70, 80 juniors. I'm sure you've seen the club, and you played at
Yeah.
the club at the time
Yeah.
when you were
Gets
growing
full.
up.
Well,
Yeah,
now it does. Yeah.
now it does. Yeah, now we've what like 150 plus members. So looking back, and again, these are the moments where it's better to just make the decision fast than do all and just sort of sit back and let things passively happen. And I'm a big fan of making decisions fast. If it doesn't work out, changing your mind fast. Uh,
Yeah.
and, and I do that, and I think it's worked out for me.
Yeah. That's very admirable. I mean, you looking at that Instagram reel LA Squash posted, you really started something from scratch. Squash was definitely not that big in LA, and I think it's great what you have going on there.
Thank you.
And every time I come back, I love playing with
Yeah, I
everyone there.
appreciate it. And shout out to all of the coaches working
Yeah,
at our academy. It's been a group effort. I don't think without any of them, all this would be possible. I mean, it's amazing to see how much ownership they take and how much they love coaching. And coaching squash is very hard
it
on
is.
your body. It's very, very difficult. And they come every day for they've been coming every day for patients with parents, kids, other challenges we have being in Southern California, and we're just getting started, I think.
Yeah. Do you have a question for the next guest relating to mental toughness?
This is a good one, I think. What from playing, training, coaching, whatever it is that the next guest will be doing, what is one mental practice or just experience on court? What is it that they've taken and applied it to their personal life, day to day personal life, or vice versa? What is it that they've taken from their personal life and applied it to the squash court and has made them play better?
All right. That's a great question. Well, thank you again for coming on today's episode, Aria. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Corey. It's my pleasure being here.